Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning, all. It's our big Monday show. I can't conceive of a show with more in it than this Monday show. And one of the things I'm excited about on today's show is that I have one guest, True Crime Corner on Mondays, bottom of the hour. And apart from that, Kim, you will tell me, because you are so good about
Kim, how are you?
keeping track of stuff. I think there is no other guest coming in, right?
Nope.
So it is just me, and I love me. You just want to hear from...
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
And I'm kind of a big deal for a reason. I'm not just a big deal. I'm a big deal for a reason. And the reason will become manifestly clear to you today as I lay so much great stuff on you today. You're going to go, wow, I'm glad I am here. So,
What?
All right, now.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those Friday nights where you just stay home and you're not going out. That's like today's Mark Thompson show. We're just staying home today.
This is, I don't know if that's quite the parallel I would...
Kim, how are you?
I don't know, but all right. I mean,
I blame you.
Okay, well, then it's however you want to think of it. It is it's a piece of paradise today. So we'll get to all things. Yes, there is much going on in Manhattan. The key witness and former lawyer, fixer, kind of mobstery sort of guy, Michael Cohen, testifying today. And I read Michael Cohen's first book. I don't know how many people did, but I did. And I read it because I was really curious as to how the Trump operation worked. And two things are true about Cohen, maybe more than two, but two I'll relate to you now after reading the book. First of all, he apologizes on every third page for what he did. It's wild how he's so full of remorse or he's so full of something else and he just wants to pretend he's remorseful. But he really makes a point. I mean, it's almost literally every third page he's saying, I can't believe that I was so in the thrall of this man that I gave up my family, I gave up my values, I gave up... He has, again, page after page of that kind of thing. But that's just punctuating his book. The book is filled with what Michael Cohen did for Donald Trump. And what he did for Donald Trump is essentially harass, threaten both legally and even physically. I mean, there was a quality of blast and scorching Trump's enemies or contractors that Trump didn't want to pay. There was a quality of intimidation that transcended law and moved into some kind of world of anything could happen. You know, the kind of Stormy Daniels thing, like nice child you have there. Hate to think something would happen to, you know what I mean? It's that kind of, so the cult of Trump is something that Cohen was very much a part of until he wasn't. And now Cohen, of course, is viewed as the enemy by Trump. And also, I'll remind you, Cohen, of all of the people who are associated with Donald Trump, all of those who carried Trump's water, the Bannons and the Jim Jordans and the Lindsey Grahams of the world during the time that Trump was president. And of course, the Cohen work started before Trump was president and extended into his presidency. So many have received favorable treatment from Trump, like a pardon for Bannon, for example. Michael Cohen didn't get that. Michael Cohen was sent away. Michael Cohen spent a year listen, Michael Cohen lied to Congress and lied under oath for Donald Trump. This is a guy who he did Trump's bidding. He was a loyal servant to Donald Trump. And then ultimately Trump stiffed him and he went away. So now he comes back for his close-up. And this is what they're going to point to. They're going to sort of say, hey, the defense is, don't you have an axe to grind with Donald Trump? Didn't he leave you behind? And so these are areas of this trial that we're going to be hearing more of. But this witness, Michael Cohen, is a critical witness. He made the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels to stay silent about that affair and that affair story. And then he funneled his own money through a shell company. And the shell company existed solely for the purpose of taking on that money, the cover-up. So he is someone who literally has the receipts on this. Now, will this fly with the jury, et cetera? We'll talk about that as the week goes on, and we'll get to it a little bit later today as well. But that is what's happening today.
I was going to say something else interesting about the trial is Trump has not had family with him. He's had no one there supporting him, just him and his lawyers. Well, now, because of that, I guess other Republican officials took to the court today to rally support around him. So today in the courtroom, there was Tommy Tuberville of Alabama,
oh my God,
J.D. Vance of Ohio,
wow.
Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd. They were all part of his entourage today at court. And so it remains to be seen as to whether that will help him or whether them being there will help them politically. But they were there supporting him today. Not the family, just other Republican officials.
Well, it's interesting, too, that J.D. Vance is playing for the vice presidency pick. And you know what? I think J.D. Vance has the inside track. Yeah. J.D. Vance will say anything. J.D. Vance is a very smart guy, but he says the most unhinged, untethered things, and he can turn and pivot on a dime to then tell another lie. That's J.D. Vance's superpower. So he's just the guy to ride shotgun with Donald Trump. Anyway, it's interesting that they're all there in the court. He is, and we'll get to this a little bit later, he is, from a polling standpoint, someone with a very good chance of getting back into the White House, Donald Trump. So if you want to be close to power, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, and those others to whom you've referred, then I can see why you would show up. Right on, Mr. President. Witch hunt, Mr. President.
Something else I thought was interesting today is they talked about Melania Trump. And Cohen said Trump wasn't thinking about Melania. This wasn't a story to keep quiet because of his wife. This was all about the election. He said he raised the issue of Melania to Trump. And he said, don't worry. How long do you think I'll be on the market for? Not long. He said he wasn't thinking about Melania. It was all about the campaign. So
I think there's chapter and verse on that, but it's wild to hear it from a guy who's so inside on Cohen. We know that he didn't care about Melania.
No.
But that's all of a sudden he's a big family man. Come on.
Right.
Apparently jurors are going to, they've seen the Cohen text and heard the recordings. I mean, there's a recording of Trump essentially ordering this money and the movement of the money. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. And I guess Eric Trump was busted, according to Candace, for texting in the courtroom. I don't see why anyone is allowed to keep their cell phone in the courtroom, especially given the fact that, I mean, I've been in courtrooms really for traffic court more than anything. But they're pretty strict. I had a paper, and I wasn't allowed to bring in the newspaper because, you're waiting for hours before you can get on, before they're going to call your name. So I had the newspaper, and I was holding it down here, and the bailiff comes over and goes, oh, you're not allowed to read the paper. You have to pay attention to the guy who was busted for taking a rolling stop. I just, okay, and sorry, that case is ongoing. Anyway.
Meanwhile, Trump is sitting there with his eyes closed again, leaning back in the chair, resting, Trump
is, he's allowed much broader berth, I think. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
hey, it's great to have everybody here. It's been a wild weekend. As you know, I lost my dear friend Sam Rubin, and you guys, actually, those on Friday know that this is where I found out about it. Luis is the one who mentioned something in a text, and I just couldn't believe it, and I still can't, and I'm on the verge of tears all weekend, and right now even, and it's funny, I am fine, and then all of a sudden I'll just start weeping. So if that happens, you'll know that that's just kind of the rhythm. I did love that guy, so really tough. This is, though, a super chat. Look at this.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Robert H. $1 for every year Sam Rubin walked this earth, and I challenge every listener to consider matching in Sam's memory. Robert, so generous of you, and Sammy was so great. You know, I don't know, I pushed to Tony a bunch of stuff about Sam Rubin, and I did a thing on KTLA this weekend. They came to me for some reflections on Sam Rubin. My hair looks kind of puffy today, I'm just saying. They throw to me, and I know what I tell you, Kim, it was the weirdest thing. I barely got a sentence out. I started weeping. I was like, it's so weird. I choked up. I wouldn't say I was weeping, but I choked up.
Right.
And it was really tough. And it's really the reason I didn't repost it. It was posted on social media, and I just, I don't know if I'm, it's not. It's almost embarrassing or something, but it really just shows your humanity, I think, on some level.
I mean, I think people understand emotion. I think you're too embarrassed about emotion.
Yeah, maybe. I sent you that tweet, Tony.
Yeah, I have it ready.
Again, play it. What do you? I'll play it for like 90 seconds, and then we'll bail on it and play.
Do you want the beginning of it, or do you want like?
Yeah, play the play the beginning. You'll see me with a little double clutch breakdown, and then and then I tell the story. I think that story is really what I want to get to, though. It's
okay. Do you want the beginning though? Yes.
What you didn't?
You want the beginning of it? Yeah.
You want to? Do you think we should skip it?
I don't know. We're doing this live, so.
All right, just go ahead and run it. Just run it.
Whom is, of course, know from Fox 11 as a longtime weather person. He also was a great dancer over there. Knew Sam for 30 years, and you might know him from KFI.
I want to apologize ahead of time. It's been very tough. But Sammy was so talented and so clearly gifted that I tried to get him hired at Fox 11 because he started at Fox 11 on a show called Fox Entertainment News. It was Barry Diller's idea to do an Entertainment Tonight type show that was about the studio system and about money and the financial side of Hollywood, sort of more than just the glamorous side, although it would include that too. Anyway, it was called FEN, Fox Entertainment News. And here comes this guy, Sam Rubin. So this is on Fox 11. And this is before the KTLA Morning News. I think it was before they even had a Morning News. And Sam was brilliant. I mean, he's dynamic. He did something that's so key in this business. He teases so well.
Yeah.
Like you just, even if you have no interest in the story, you're just astounded by the idea of staying tuned and hearing whatever he has to say. You know, you won't believe the reason that the Disney company is changing its policies at the theme park.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, wait a minute. I don't care about the theme park, but I'm very curious. So you stay tuned. And he still had that ability up until his
Tony,
last
I'll
moment.
finish the story real quick here. But I did go into management twice. I made special meetings to get Sam hired at Fox 11 because he was such an extraordinary talent. And one of the meetings was for the weekend weather job. And I told Sam, I'll teach you how to read various things that will help you with the weather. You know, now it's much easier. Back then it was a little bit harder. And he said, I don't know, I've just never done weather. I said, don't worry, I'll get you all up to speed on it. So I go in and I pitch it, and I thought I was kind of like,
a guy with a lot of pull there in the.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, I thought there
I'm
was
kind of a big deal.
I thought it was a big deal, and of course they did not hire him, and they did not hire Sam, and he went then to Channel 5, literally across the street, and he kicked Channel 11's butt every morning because he's so goddamn good, and he was an astounding key to their success. I mean, I don't know how. I was saying this on Friday, how to break down how much of a contribution Sam Rubin is on that morning show for KTLA, but it's more than 50%. He is, losing him is huge, and losing him from life is even bigger. He was a magnificent guy. And the last thing I'll tell you about Sam, just from a personal standpoint, and I might have mentioned this the other day. I'm sorry. I've talked a lot about Sam because I'm just so, it happened so suddenly, He's a young person and it happened so suddenly. But when my house burned, neighborhood burned, I had an annual event. And Sam was always there with his family. It was the Stragglers Vegan Potluck Thanksgiving. So we did it a few days after Thanksgiving. That's what we call it, Stragglers. And it was all vegan and it was all potluck. And it was a big event. We had like 115, 120 people there at my house. And when the house burned, Sam called me and he said, "Hey, man, why don't you do your annual event at my house?"
Nice.
And I said, "Sam, it's a lot of people. You don't want all those people at your house, do you?" He said, "I'd love it." He said, "It'll be great." He said, "It'll be fun." I said, "Well, we can, maybe we can rent some." He said, "Yeah, you can rent a bar. You can rent furniture. I know a guy." He always knew a guy. And we did. We had it at Sam Rubin's house. And it was spectacular. And Sammy was there. And everybody loves Sam. And so it was great to see. But that's the kind of person he was. He stepped up. I didn't ask him. I didn't even think of it. I told him, "I'm just going to cancel it this year, Sammy. Don't worry about it." He said, No. Do it at my house. So, tough. So many great memories. And I watched today as his son spoke about him. And the last thing I'll say about Sam Rubin is he kind of went through what I picked up as a change. He increasingly was on these 10-day hikes with the Boy Scouts, and he was like hiking at Yosemite, and it was like, wow. I said, "Sam," I remember I said, "Who are you? What is going on with all of these hikes and this Boy Scout stuff?" And he said, "My son is really into it, and my son," he said, "has turned into a stud." He said, "I want to support him, so I'm out on doing all this stuff." And that was the change. He was really an active guy. I mean, super active in the last few years, in addition, of course, to being the last word in entertainment in Los Angeles, these red carpet shows. He, I think, just brought a special spark and dynamism, and that's what he brought to all his TV work. I will miss him on television, but more personally. So rest in peace, my dear friend, Sam Rubin.
How old are his children?
Colby, you'll have to look to see, but I think one is just entering teenage years, and one is a teenager. Colby's a teenager now, and then he has older kids from a first marriage,
right?
And they are lovely, gorgeous family. Everybody's beautiful, but really great bunch. And I've been in touch with his wife a bit, and will keep you posted if there's any kind of public memorial service. So that's in Los Angeles, everybody. But there's other...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Roger Corman died. Roger Corman, the king of the B movie, isn't that what they used to call him? He is in his 90s. We saw him, Courtney and I both saw him at a birthday party. It had to be, I'm going to say, maybe 6 years ago. He was 98, by the way, Roger Corman was.
Right.
We saw him at a birthday party for Peter Bogdanovich, the director, because they worked together at the beginning of Bogdanovich's career. But he worked outside the studio system and put together these B movies, horror films, sci-fi, westerns, And he did it all. And he really did it as an independent producer-director. And he scouted acting schools to find talent that was just coming up and that would work for low wages. But look at him. He met Francis Ford Coppola when he was at the UCLA Film School. And he got people to do re-edits. In fact, his Bogdanovich collaboration was Bogdanovich using old footage from something that Corman had shot and didn't release. He said, can you turn this into a different kind of feature? And Bogdanovich did. So, an immense figure in Hollywood, Roger Corman. And finally, let me just to round it out.
Right.
Let me tell you that the woman who played the actress who is eaten by the shark at the beginning of Jaws, she passed away this weekend. She was the woman best really known for her role in Jaws. It was the very beginning of the movie, and it is chilling to see that scene, right? Because you don't see the shark. You only see the actress.
Oh.
And
Look at her face. Wow.
Yeah. Susan Backlany, 77 years old. And she played Chrissy Watkins in Spielberg's Jaws. Spent 3 days rehearsing that scene, the opening scene in which she's thrashed around by this great white before she vanishes underneath the surface.
I wonder how much you got paid for that back then. I mean, you're not in the movie very long, you know?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
She was also in 2 Minute Warning, The Great Muppet Caper, Day of the Animals, and the television series The Fall Guy. So, rest in peace to them all. And that wraps up our...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, I did want to, before I get any farther along, let you know that I want to address, I'm going to miss Sam. There's a $5 super sticker from Spencer Jeff.
Big shout out.
Thank you. Big shout out. Thank you. In honor of Sam's memory, there's a $5 super chat from Vilma.
Big shout
Thank you,
out.
Vilma. You're so great. By the way, before I do leave the Sam thing completely, I want you to know he was a good friend to this show. I mean, we're just this little YouTube show, sort of. I mean, we've grown. I'd like to think that we have a bigger footprint, but Sam was here at the very beginning, and you'll remember the day after Oscars, he's just done the Oscar red carpet. The guy's does a morning show. I mean, he's got a lot of obligations. He would be easy and even understandable for him to say, Mark, I'd love to do your show. Can we do it, later? Can I tape it? Can I, whatever. He joined us live from his bed. Mm-hmm. Isn't that right, Tony? Wasn't he? He was in bed, I think. Oh, Kim, you remember it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he is. Look at.
Yeah.
There, run. Can you run just a second of it? This is Sammy joining us from bed. Oscars last night. I really liked it, and
I think the reaction was because I'm reading something that's interesting to me. Because I thought towards the end, when Jimmy Kimmel read that review from former President Trump, I thought that was a comedy bit. I thought it was completely made up, only to discover it wasn't made up. It was an actual tweet that Trump had posted on Truth Social. And apparently, Jimmy Kimmel telling some people backstage that when told, hey, you have some extra time, there's time to fill a TV phrase, Mark, that the show is light, which is never the case with the Oscars. And came as a surprise to me. He's like, I'm going to read this tweet. And that some people told him not to do it. But he did. And then that fantastic end line, the capper line, isn't it a little past your bedtime? And what Kimmel said was, no. Isn't it a little past your jail time? Which was a fantastic, very funny thing. But I think Jimmy will be invited back for year 5 if he's so inclined. And reminds me of another era. How many years did Billy Crystal do it? So I think we're encroaching.
Right. He feels like this generation's Billy Crystal.
Right.
And Alan says, show is well thought out. Twins, Arnold and Danny, great entertainment with original Batman, Michael Keaton and audience. That was a great beat in the entire thing.
Michael Keaton, post 70, looking great. This was a more mature Oscars. But you know what? People looked fantastic. And then that original idea to have 5 former Oscar winners make these presentations. When I saw the first one, Best Supporting Actress, I thought, gee, this is nice. It is heartfelt. It is going to take forever. And so I thought there's no way they could do this ceremony in 3.5 hours. And then amazingly, even with some big production numbers, they did do it in 3.5 hours.
There you go. I had exactly the same thought you did. Tony, thank you for finding that. But look, that's Sam Rubin joining us from bed the day after the Oscars. He was so exhausted. This one's for Sam. Just watched his ride on Guardians of the Galaxy at Disneyland. That is really funny. You're absolutely right, Wes. $5 super
Big shout out.
It really is funny. Amber Anderson, wow. Sam was the absolute best, quirky and full of joy. Amber.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I may cry. It'll be both your contribution and the loss of our dear Sammy.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
Amber, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
He was quirky and full of joy. That, I think, is a really great description. And the absolute best. No question about it. Without peer. I mean, irreplaceable. And so, wow, Amber Anderson, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Wow. Tony will repost all of that, and we'll drop it as a separate video. I'll talk to you after the show. We'll get all of that, which you just saw. So I know now I'm beginning to flirt with running out of time, but I did want to let people know, for this, before I get to Kim's news, but I do want people to know that I'm going to talk about the new polling in swing states that does show Donald Trump with some impressive leads. I'm also going to talk in the next hour about what used to be seen as an advantage. I'm talking about incumbency. Now I think it's a burden. Joe Biden wears incumbency, and it's showing up in the polling. And so I will get to that. The good news for you Donald Trump fans is that Trump is polling well in some of these swing states. But that lives alongside some of the wild GOP notions. Katie Britt, the bizarre spokesperson for the GOP response to the State of the Union. You'll remember Katie Britt. We'll remind you if you don't know who she is. She is in our show a little bit later. The chunk of Trump includes both his latest polling numbers and, as I say, a little bit about the trial. And one last thing, the IRS audit. He could make that audit go away. He might even be able to make the penalties go away. He's pursuing this executive immunity thing in a pretty aggressive fashion. We'll have to see. But that, and lastly in Chunk of Trump, it's a big one. It'll be in the second hour. I have clips from his unhinged and completely bizarro stump speech that was enjoyed by 100,000 people. Kim, they in New Jersey, that's the Jersey Shore where we vacationed occasionally, Wildwood, New Jersey, I think. My family went there when I was a kid a couple of times. We grew up in Washington, D.C. On the beach and on the boardwalk, they say there were 100,000 people, 80 to 100. I don't know if those numbers are inflated in any way, but even if they're inflated modestly, that's a lot of people. Wow. So this guy got a lot of support. I'll play you some of what he said and give you some thoughts. So we have a lot to get to. That, Stories from the Sky, Law and Disorder. Wow. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I really want to thank you guys who step up and support our show. We are crowd-funded, and I really do appreciate it. Kim's News and True Crime Corner next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Me. On the Mark Thompson Show. Well, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Boy, did they ever have a great Mother's Day weekend. We'll tell you about another event they have coming up in merely moments. But first, Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen claims he was the former president's fixer. There's a picture of Mr. Cohen. He looks a little fixery, doesn't he? While on the stand today in Trump's hush money trial in New York, Cohen cast himself as someone Trump trusted to handle sensitive matters. Cohen allegedly paid porn star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election to cover up a 2006 sexual encounter with Trump. A lot of graduations over the weekend and a lot of disruptions as well, because students protesting the Israel-Hamas war walked out and led walkouts at dozens of weekend graduation ceremonies. At Duke University's graduation Sunday, a group of students walked out during comedian Jerry Seinfeld's commencement address.
I watched that commencement address, actually. Right before I went to bed last night, I watched the entire thing. It wasn't long. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any protesters screaming. Maybe that just was the way the place was mic'd up. But,
they turned around and walked right out, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. In New Jersey, about 60 Rutgers University students walked out of their graduation ceremony. Similar scenes at UC Berkeley and other schools on the West Coast as well. So.
Good day, sir.
Okay.
That's not the news maybe we wanted today. President Biden trailing Donald Trump in 5 of key 6 battleground states in new polling. The New York Times, Siena College, and Philadelphia Inquirer surveys found Trump ahead of President Biden in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. President Biden, meanwhile, narrowly leads Trump in Wisconsin among registered voters.
We really want a strong man in this country, don't we? We just want, some guy who talks smack, promises crap, and just shows up and speaks loudly. I get. What is it, Courtney?
I was going to say that's a great segue to the True Crime Corner.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know. I haven't peeked at True Crime Corner yet. But thank you for teasing your segment that's coming up.
Of course.
Yeah, it's we'll see what happens. I don't know. I take hope in Michael Schur never putting much stock in polls. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Also, I was in touch with Jim Avila today.
Oh,
who always
how's
makes
he?
Me, he always drags me to dry land on when I feel I'm at sea with the polls. He goes, no. He says in the end, he says he's not going to get the black vote. He's not going to get maybe.
Not.
I mean, you got to get everybody showing up though.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
GameStop shares are jumping because of a cartoon posted on X, basically. The return of Roaring Kitty to social media. The gamer got thousands of day traders to buy shares of the video game retailer during the pandemic. That move drove up the stock's value and crushed wealthy hedge fund managers trying to profit from a short sale. So again, now the GameStop shares are jumping again. They had churchgoers in Louisiana that stopped a teenager with a rifle from walking into their place of worship. That happened over the weekend on Saturday. According to local police, the church in Abbeville, south of Lafayette, was full of about 60 children waiting to take their first communion, and the service was being live streamed. The 16-year-old allegedly attempted to walk in the back door when he was confronted and taken outside to wait for authorities.
Jeez.
It seems like people at churches are getting smarter when it comes to security. The reign of Oakland's new police chief officially underway. Chief Floyd Mitchell technically had his first day in office over the weekend, but today is his first actual day heading into the new office as the leader of the Oakland Police Department. Mitchell was appointed by Mayor Sheng Tao in March. He'd previously served as the police chief for 2 different cities in Texas. Mitchell takes over as Oakland deals with numerous concerns from residents about the safety of the city. Statistics show overall crime in Oakland is actually down, but robberies are up. He needs to head to Hagenberger, first stop on the tour. A Southern California family has quite a story to tell. They caught a bear raiding the family's refrigerator. The owners of the home in La Cañada Flint Ridge recorded the bear raiding their fridge and freezer in their garage. The animal ultimately picked out a giant piece of watermelon from the fridge and then took off. The family says no one was injured, everybody okay, but they're not going to forget that happened for a while.
It's wild that these bears have become better at doing everything from getting into trash cans to opening car doors to opening the refrigerator to grab a watermelon. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't know if keeping a garage door closed will help or not, because it seems like if they want in badly enough, they'll get in.
Oh yeah,
I
think that's true. It's that, and they're bears.
So
they
they're
can do
bears.
that. Yeah.
If they want it, they're gonna get it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Big shout out to Jim Slayton, by the way. Thank you for
Jim.
a $5 super sticker for our dear
Nice.
Sam Rubin.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Lastly, there's a new study finding that a master's degree might not actually be a worthwhile investment. A new analysis by the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity says more than 40% of master's degrees aren't financially worth getting. The study looked at career earnings at graduation and then a decade later while adjusting for factors like dropout rate. The study found more than 75% of four-year bachelor's degrees actually have a positive return on investment, but when you look at the master's degree, maybe it's not worth spending the money there. So,
wow. Well, that's the
don't bother.
Return on investment part of the masters, but for just the collegiate experience and for the to be in those, to be soaked in that intellectual environment, maybe it's worth the money. But if you're looking for a return on the investment, not worth it. Which is why I'm not going to be pursuing my master's degree. I just decided during. Kim's,
really? Is that okay? That's all right.
I'm not going to do it. I had. That was actually going to be my announcement in the second hour.
You had it all lined up.
The show because I'm pursuing multiple master's degrees. Actually, I was going to do more than one.
Sure.
At the same time, because I am a man of an immense intellect, and the master's degree now I'm going to back burner it. Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
if you were gonna get your master's, what would you get it in?
Is there a master's in BS? Is there
what? Yes. Yes. I think it's
feel
called
like you already
political
have that.
science and rhetoric.
You think I've already got that? Oh, okay.
I think you could teach the class.
There you are.
Yeah.
I'll go right to the PhD, Tom says. Yeah, exactly.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards, and they had a great Mother's Day. As a matter of fact, I got this message this morning from Rich out at Tenuta Vineyards. It says, "Good morning. Hope you had a great Mother's Day. We were so busy at the winery. Vivian from Redwood City came by after hearing about us through the show. So thank you. He wants everyone to know that they are open for Memorial Day weekend. Going to be a great event. They've got live music. It's on May 25th from 1 to 4 p.m. Featuring Brandon McCullough performing there. So check it out. By the way, you get your 10% off at Tenuta Vineyards, and all you have to do is call or email with the phrase "smash it with your iron rod."
Smash it with your iron rod.
Thank you, ma'am. You get a 10% discount. If you purchase a case of wine, by the way, you get 20%. So here's the phone number. It's 925-699-4576, 925-699-4576. It's Rich at Tenuta, Tenuta, tenutavineyard.com. So again, they've got live music Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to be a really fun event. So if you're looking for something to do, that might be something to put on the list. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
Check that out. It's on your screen now. It's the big special event for the beginning of the summer. It's June Swoon, everybody. Come on with some swooning. Come on. Damn it, Courtney. I want some June Swoon.
So do I.
Well, you're going to be there. Courtney will be there, and you'll be able to see her on camera, even as camera shy as she is. It's going to be quite special to have my darling Courtney visible to all. It's going to be like a magical experience. Oh, yes. Courtney will be there. We'll all be there. Special guests already confirmed. Spencer Christian's going to be by. Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline NBC is going to be part of it.
Oh, that's great.
Everybody from the show, Kim, Tony will be there, and Tony's very hard to nail down.
Thanks, Tony.
And Albert's going to be there.
Albert, thank you.
So you've got everybody from the show, and my darling Kim.
Kim, how are you?
So it's the June Swoon Summer Kickoff Meetup with those special guests and more. Rothman, I think, is going to be there. The first 25 people lock spots, and then we have to close the doors. You can sign up at our PayPal with a $50 donation. And when you make the donation, please note Meetup or June Swoon. Meetup or June Swoon. Either one we'll take. And After that, drop us a line if you want. It's optional. It's mtsmeetup@gmail.com. mtsmeetup@gmail.com. So again, you can find the PayPal on the link under any video. Isn't that right, Tony? All the videos have the PayPal link.
Yes.
So you go there, you toss us 50, you lock up your spot, and just note when you make that $50 contribution that it is for June Swoon or Meetup. And yeah, it's a fundraiser for the show, but we also hope to have a lot of fun. And it's 2 hours, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Courtney, can you sustain that level of charisma over 2 hours?
That's a lot of swoon. It's
That
more
is a
swoon
lot.
than our
Well,
house
you've got swoon on top of swoon, my darling. So I'm not worried about yes. Courtney will be there. It will be special. All right. Without any further delay, on Mondays, we do a special feature. As you know, I have no interest in true crime. I was thinking about this, Courtney, and I'll tell you, I literally really was thinking about this. I was thinking, why is it that the true crime genre, which is so hot, doesn't appeal to me? And I'll tell you why. I came up with this answer. I think I just don't like that people are, it's kind of grisly, some of the stuff, you know what I mean? And I don't really have, yet I do find those murder mystery shows that are, those, I find those really intriguing. And that's really what this is. These are yarns, right, about the person being offed. So it's interesting. I don't know. So I'm going to take another meeting on my distaste for it.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll have a new intro then.
Mark, it's really great when you intro every week. You intro this segment by making a disparaging comment about the genre.
Only a real sick person would like this genre. And here's
I really did
here's
realize
a person I share my life with.
Just now, I don't. Yeah. So we do this all in a segment we call True Crime Corner.
Let's pay a visit to Mark's True Crime Corner.
This is not a good neighborhood. I'm scared.
Now, here's your host, Mark Thompson.
Well, thank you, everyone. And how about it for Courtney, my other half?
Yes, thank you for having me.
We've had quite the weekend.
Yeah, I know that somebody asked about the Idaho murders, and I'm working on an update for that. But I have to thank Sheila, who has been updating me on Twitter, or X, about the Karen Reed case, which we covered a couple weeks ago. And it is truly crazy what is happening in that courtroom with this case. I mean, it's manifest corruption on the side of the Boston Police Department and some of the people that were at the house.
Well, you're going to have to you're going to have to review what the manifest corruption, Boston Police, and people at the house. Now, tell us, the house was populated. It was a party.
It was a party.
You featured it here before, but not everybody saw it, Courtney.
It was a party, and the woman who is on trial for the murder of her boyfriend is Karen Reed, and she dropped her boyfriend off at a party at this house, at the Albert House, and she went home. She went back to his house, fell asleep, she says. Woke up, her boyfriend wasn't there. She went to the Albert House where she had dropped him off for the party. He was dead in the front yard. And the people within the Albert House were Boston police officers, but also someone from ATF and a couple other people who were in law enforcement. And they are saying that she ran over him. She's saying that they killed him at the party. But it's really incredible, just crazy what's happening on the stand as they are talking to various people that were at that party inside of that house.
Well, why do you say? But you're saying then those inside the party, et cetera, those are all cops, and you're saying they're all in on covering it up.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I mean, even as of today, some of the testimony was that they gave up their phones just before the trial because they didn't know they were supposed to keep their phones and the data on their phones. They rehoused the dog. The dog was allegedly part of the attack.
I'm sorry. What do you mean they gave up their phones?
I mean, they didn't keep their phones as evidence. They got rid of their phones as quickly as they could, the people inside of the house.
Oh, as quickly as they could, okay.
Yeah, and so as evidence comes into trial, it's pretty incredible what's happening.
Oh, you're saying just the way that everything was, anything that could be evidence was destroyed or,
yeah. And as you know, when we were at an event a couple weekends ago, somebody asked me about
my God, that was the most embarrassing thing.
True crime segment.
So can we tell that story real quick? Do we have a second? Let me just...
Hopefully.
So, Courtney, we're at a thing for the cops, okay? What was it? LAPD.
It was a gala for the LAPD.
So everybody in the room is a police officer. We're at the table with the chief and the second in command to the chief. Courtney is sitting next to someone who is active in the police department and et cetera. So he asks her, what are you doing? What are you up to? She talks about the fact that she does this. They both apparently have this abiding interest in true crime. Mm-hmm. Right? That's really how it got on.
That's really how it started, is he knew I liked true crime, so he came over and sat next to me and started talking to me about true crime.
Yeah, because we had done the event the prior year, so that's how he knew. And then you said what?
He said, well, what is a recent case that you covered? And I said, I just did the Karen Reed case. And then he said, I don't know much about that case. Can you, what's the case about? And I started to explain it, and about, 6 seconds in, I thought, this is all about police corruption. It's about
police collusion and corruption. Like, you're at an event where it's all police.
How do I backtrack this? And I'm thinking so I'm avoiding that and trying to talk about just what Karen Reed is being accused of.
Unbelievable. It was so massively embarrassing.
It was a moment where he was not familiar with that case, and that worked in my favor. Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Anyway, to today, what do you have for us?
Oh my God. It's just the most insane case that's happening right now with Micah Miller. And I'm not sure if anybody listening or watching is familiar with this case, but I'm going to do my best to do it in 10 minutes. But it is ongoing. And I have a couple videos. Now, I'll just preface this with I edited the videos down. So if you're looking for any of the entire videos, they're about 3 minutes long. You can find those online. But Micah Miller was found dead on April 27th this year in a national park. And it is alleged, and the coroner and the police have said that she killed herself. But a lot of people are very suspicious about this murder, this death. So Micah Miller is featured if you're watching. You can see some visuals of her. She was a very religious woman. She grew up in the church. She grew up specifically going to a church called Solid Rock. That is, in fact, where she met her husband, and her husband is the person alleged of killing Micah Miller. That photo is actually her baptism into a new church. She had left the church close to the end of March because of the issues that she was having with her husband. So again, thank you. The next visual is John Paul. John Paul Miller is her husband. They met when she was 14, and he started grooming her in the church. She was part of the youth, the youth group. Now, John Paul at the time had a son who was 13. So he had a child when he was 16. That child, Logan, was 13 when he started grooming Micah in the youth group within the church. And the church is called Solid Rock. And so they start a relationship. If you go to the next visual, you'll see pictures of the couple. This is the couple. He's about 14 years older than her. So when she was 14, he was close to 30. So they married actually when they were 24. But if you go down... Yeah, he actually started, really, his father was part of the issue with John Paul becoming this pastor who, in fact, was really taking advantage of his influence and power within the church. So John Paul's father is Reginald Wayne. He calls himself Dr. Miller, says that he has a doctorate in, I think it's like theology or religious studies.
That's another doctorate in BS.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But this man is just awful. He started several academies, Grand Strand, which then became Cathedral Bible College. These were all alleged colleges or scholastic studies that mostly international students would come to study theology and religious and different sort of religious studies. But in fact, he was forcing these international students into work study programs where sometimes they would work 60 to 80 hours a week for virtually no pay, which is illegal. Someone on a student visa cannot work more than 20 hours a week. He was very much underpaying them. But even worse than all of that was the sexual assault allegations. And he, in fact, was arrested in a national park because he liked to take his son and his children to national parks. He was arrested in a national park soliciting an undercover officer for sex, a male undercover officer for sex. Now, he was married with several children, but he would conduct these sort of salacious, illegal relationships on the side. And he traveled internationally as well in pursuit of these relationships outside of his marriage.
Wow. And when did these revelations come to evidence? I mean,
well, now that
attention.
That's an interesting piece because I've shown at the top, if you're looking at it, this quote church end quote started as an academy, a religious academy, and it's gone through several iterations and evolutions. So to your point, if anybody in South Carolina, which is currently where the church is in Myrtle Beach, had done any investigative work on John Paul, they would have found Reginald Wayne Miller. And they would have seen the grift that was happening and the corruption that was happening. So it's only come into light recently, as I know it, with the murder of Micah or with the death of Micah Miller, that in fact they're connecting Reginald Wayne with what's happening with John Paul. But this church has existed for some time in different forms. So if you go to the next visual, this is the church. So this is Solid Rock. So currently it's called Solid Rock at Market Common. They renamed the church actually when John Paul married Micah because he had been having an affair with Micah on his first wife, behind the back of his first wife, among many other affairs. And
this guy was really getting around men, women, affairs.
That he had, yes. And so in 2015, the church was called Solid Rock, but they changed it to Solid Rock at Market Common. And I have a video of some of his, one of his sermons, I'll just say, to give you a sense of the kind of rhetoric that he was proselytizing. So.
Okay, so this is a video.
It's always about what I'm preaching about. God is so good to do that every single time. One day I'm going to preach about getting rich, strong, healthy, and finding a hot wife that loves Jesus. That's what I'm going to do.
So he's
upfront about it.
Yeah, I mean, he really was talking to the parishioners about what was important in life. But oftentimes he was airing his grievances. I mean, he was very public about his relationship with Micah. He was very derogatory toward women. He was very misogynistic. And yet there was some kind of award they won every year in the past 4 years for like greatest congregation in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Yeah. So if you go to the next visual, I'm bringing up this visual because Micah was actually married at 18, and John Paul, her future husband, the man accused of, if not killing her, driving her to kill herself, officiated. But she was 18. So since the age of 14, this woman has either been groomed or in really bad relationships. And so you can see Micah there. She's 18. That's her first husband, Jeremy. And behind them is John Paul. He's the officiant. And if you go to the next visual, you can see an even closer image of Micah at 18 marrying her first husband. They separate when she's 21. And so, and then she continues to have an affair with John Paul, who's married to his first wife. Micah files for divorce from Jeremy on the same exact day that John Paul files for divorce from his first wife.
No,
Her name is Allison. Yeah. So if you go to the next visual, so here's the timeline. So all of that is the backstory of this relationship. And Micah files for divorce from John Paul in October of last year. Now, it is alleged that Micah had some mental health issues. Also that John Paul has some mental health issues. But there were definitely issues within the relationship and the marriage for years.
So it's saying, for those who, I mean, I'm just seeing it now for the first time also, So she files for divorce. Then in February, some months later, October is when she filed for divorce. Micah's involuntarily hospitalized by John Paul. Her car and the phone are taken.
Yeah.
Then the divorce case is dismissed. That's because
it's corrupt. The judge is in collusion with John Paul and the church. And so that is dismissed. He files for separation. But what's important about John Paul taking her car while she was involuntarily hospitalized by him is that she had been collecting information to prove her case in the divorce. And he was taking all of that from her phone and her car. He took over her Facebook account and started pretending that he was Micah on the Facebook. He was responding to people on her phone as if he was Micah. He was erasing years of information that she had collected about the abuse that she was suffering at the hands of John Paul.
Jeez.
Yep. And that comes into what it is important then and even important now, because guess who has all of her belongings after her death? John Paul. And guess who is ruining, destroying evidence to the severe harm and abuse that he caused to her is John Paul. There are two incidences in March. One of the video that I'll show you, but he's stalking her. He's taking the air out of her tires. He has devices that follow her car. What is it? Tracking devices he's put inside of her car so he knows where she is. He's following her to different places and harassing her.
So there's another she post to Facebook about the abusive relationship, right?
Yeah. So then she has to start a new Facebook page.
In March, that happens.
In March,
So,
yeah.
okay.
And then she starts to post from the new Facebook page because he has the old Facebook page. He actually, and I have a video, this will be the next video we show. He goes to a place where she's getting her tires fixed and he threatens her and he says, I'm going to put a picture up on your Facebook page. So he goes to the Facebook page that he stole while she was in the hospital and posts a topless picture of his wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's see the video
So
real quick if we
you go
can,
to the
Tony.
video.
And we got to wrap up. Sorry. This is when he's harassing her in March of.
Hey.
I'll show you the picture.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Was he in jail in a few hours for harassment or?
Nope. He never went to jail. Nothing.
So then there's a second video a video that she puts up on Facebook, right?
Yeah,
that's what I was seeing on your
several,
timeline.
Yeah, there's several videos of her that she put up on Facebook, very much telling people that she was alive. Basically, is what she was saying, because she had not been communicating with many people, and also that she started to speak out against the abuses that were being, that she was suffering from.
So then it's a short time after that life really gets tough.
So
Go
then
ahead.
on April 27th, she leaves her house. There's a quick, if you go down a couple visuals, she leaves her house at about 11:30 a.m. She's actually dressed for work. And when she leaves the house, she drives to a pawn shop. And at the pawn shop, she buys a gun.
Wow.
And then after buying the gun, they can follow her car driving north toward a state park. Remember, I mentioned at the beginning of this that the father and her husband, John Paul, the father, Reginald Wayne, the family often went to state parks. So you can see her, if you're watching, that she buys the weapon, she goes into the pawn shop. The next visual is of her new car, since he took her old car, driving toward the state park. She goes in to get gas. So I'm showing you this because it's very much a timeline of then what happens. And then she arrives at the park. She calls 911 to provide her location at the park. Now, this is audio of that, and it's a very shortened version because I did not want to play the entire audio piece.
Yeah, the entire audio piece is a little too intense, so we've kind of cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
So that is Micah. She's on the phone with 911. She's making sure that they can find her phone because
she's worried that he's following her there?
She wants her family to be able to find her body. Yeah, and that is why she calls 911.
So did she take her then? I'm sorry, let me just skip ahead. What happens? She's then her body is found.
Her body is found, and her body is found. She tells a 911 officer she's going to take her own life. They send officers to the park. They find the body. There's actually an audio witness, Johnny Jacobs. He hears her crying. He hears the gunshot. He does not see any of it. But they, in fact, also find her car. There's a visual on the left-hand side of her car with the newly bought gun case and some other things that she had brought with her.
So she did take her own life then?
She did. I mean, she did.
She was harassed and essentially driven to that. Yes.
Now, some people are alleging other things happened, but it's very clear if you look at the evidence from the visuals that I was just showing and like the timeline, she very much bought a gun and then called 911 and said that she was going to do this herself. Some people say that she called in duress. It's also partially why I played that audio, but it in fact looks like she took her own life.
So where does this sit now, this case?
So the coroner and the police have said that she took her own life, and it stands there. The family just filed a lawsuit against John Paul because they want her estate and they want her things. So he has taken all of her computer, her phone, her car, any evidence to the fact of, again, that abuse that was being conducted against her by John Paul. He has taken all of that evidence. So
there is likely then going to be no charge brought against this guy.
It looks like there would only be a civil lawsuit. Yeah.
He's going to get back to, Calvin says wrongful death lawsuit.
He also would not let the family see the body unless they signed off on a cremation. So he says that he's been back to see the body 4 times in a sermon that he holds, although now he's no longer with the church. But he has, in fact, never let the family see the body after her death.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what a dirtball this guy is. I mean, there are no words.
He's
had a
He had a memorial service on the same date and same time as the family had their memorial service in different states. Yeah. And even there, in the obituary he writes, he talks about himself, like what a great pastor he is and how funny he is. I mean, it's a delusion and a sickness beyond what you could imagine. So we can only hope that Micah and her family have justice. Yeah.
Wow, that is sad. It's really a story of just being harassed and pushed and abused. From very early age.
From very early age.
And then how old was she?
She was, I think she was 29, 28, 29.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm. Or 30. She was very young. Yeah. So.
That's terrible.
I know, it's awful. It really is an awful story. It's happening now. So if you want more information
that's
on
obviously,
story,
you always try to bring us stuff that is, significant for a reason. And I guess it's the contemporary nature of this is what makes it significant.
Yeah.
Very sad. Courtney, thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
I appreciate you telling a story that is hard to tell. But
yeah, it is.
Yeah. That's True Crime Corner for today.
True Crime Corner, only on the Mark Thompson Show.
Courtney, everybody. Yeah, Courtney.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Tony.
Somebody asking in the chat, see if I can find it. I'm kind of used to harassment of every kind. I mean, I don't mean to put it in not the harassment that poor woman went through, please.
No.
But I mention it because it's this kind of thing.
Oh.
I'm about to share it with you.
Oh, wow.
I can't find it now, but essentially it was, if Courtney's here to do True Crime Corner, why is it called Mark's True Crime Corner? Why isn't it Courtney's True Crime Corner?
This is what I live in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Mark's world. I just live
in. Here it is. Adam
it.
David says it.
Yep.
How is it Mark's True Crime Corner? Shouldn't it be Courtney's name on it?
Thank you, Adam. David.
Well, Adam, here's the deal. I can't count on anybody showing up every week. including Courtney. And
Oh,
so
that's
I don't
not
put anybody's
true.
name on anything.
Yeah, including yourself.
And
Inclu-
also,
you know
it would
what?
sound
You know what?
better if it was Courtney's True Crime Corner
Right,
because there's a
yeah.
bunch of C's. It'd be
No.
alliteration.
Some alliteration.
You're right.
Yeah.
I do lean toward alliterative stuff, but I'm sorry.
It outweighs your leaning toward Mark stuff.
Yeah, leaning toward Mark stuff is still the best. Still the best. So I'm sorry, Adam.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not hitching my wagons to anybody in particular.
Oh, wow.
But you can take off the True Crime Corner banner now, maybe, whoever handles banner stuff on this show.
Oh, my gosh.
And
I blame you.
Okay, well,
Oh,
I mean,
my
you can
God.
blame me, but it's still I also want to honor, as people who have stepped up today in the Super Chat, Karen Kleiner says, for $4.99, I couldn't figure out how to do exactly 64. Oh, this is for dear sweet Sammy Rubin on Super Chat, so I did it on PayPal.
That's nice.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Karen. Wow, that's really cool.
Big shout out.
Big shout out
that's
to
sweet.
Karen Kleiner.
Yeah, I like Karen's photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cute little, looks like our Cashy.
Looks like Cash, yeah.
Little Cash, our cat. Rest in peace, Sam, she says. Karen Kleiner. Wow, that's so nice. And he will be missed. And that's very generous, $64 in
Really
PayPal. And in memory of our pal and big friend of the show. We showed you earlier how he joined us the day after Oscars from bed. Wow. Karen Kleiner, thank you.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
It's very, very sweet. I guess that's it, Courtney.
Yeah,
I was
thank
gonna,
you for
okay.
having me.
Yeah,
No,
all right.
it was these. I know this in particular is a story that you would not like because of the horrible nature of it and
Yeah,
the abuse
yeah.
of the women.
Well,
but I will come. No, I will come sometime without it having to do with death. Or
well, you
murder.
did last week. You had a
Yeah.
great story about somebody impersonating a Saudi royalty.
Someone died.
Yeah, that was a
though.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, thank you, Courtney.
thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very sweet.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Very sweet to see Courtney.
Did you guys see the aurora borealis over the weekend?
No, you saw the aurora borealis because it was good in Northern California, right?
I didn't see it, but yes, it was good in Northern California.
Well, wait a minute.
What?
Why didn't you see it, Kim?
Well, they said it wasn't really going to happen. Don't hold your breath, right? And so
The
then all of a sudden,
science is ridiculous.
people started posting pictures on Friday night
Yeah.
of the aurora borealis over Northern California spots. And they said,
Yes.
oh, so the next night, my son and I set out on an adventure. And we went to the highest peaks on Saturday night to try to see if we could see the northern lights. And we saw nothing.
Now, when did you go up there?
11 to 12, we were out.
Oh.
And then last night, I poked my head out. There wasn't much. That was a picture taken Friday night over the Golden Gate Bridge from the Marin
Wow.
Headlands, I believe, or toward the Marin Headlands. Yeah.
Was that
So-
really the way it looked, or is that
Yeah.
like enhanced a bit?
So
Wow.
it was a light pink with a green underneath.
Wow.
Yeah. Mostly people said that you could kind of see it, but then when you raised your cell phone, you could really see it because for some reason the phone picks up more light.
It
I
filters
guess.
out certain. Maybe that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So these are real pictures, but it was like this across much of the Bay Area. Pictures from Tahoe are amazing.
Yes.
There's never been anything like this.
It really does. It's quite extraordinary to see it as far south as the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm sure the shots from Tahoe are great. There's none of that light pollution.
Yeah. And we're supposed to have a chance of seeing it tonight.
Wow. Was that from this weekend? No.
I don't know.
Now
what
we're
that
just
one's-
putting up random pictures.
I
of
don't
Northern
remember. I
Lights,
don't
Tony.
recognize that one.
These are linked to news stories. It says a day ago, the Tahoe Daily Tribune
that's
this one.
Tahoe a day ago. Wow.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah.
Man.
Oh wait, that might be 2012. Sorry.
That's not.
My
That
fault.
didn't
How
look
can I-
familiar to me.
How can I take away a thanks, Tony? There's nothing that takes it
Subtraction.
away.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I just
they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
My God.
We're supposed to have more chances because there's more of
And I
these
also
solar.
want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see
What happened
this
to the
week.
pictures I was supposed to see that are from this year, Tony?
there's more of this solar flare activity that's supposed to happen. So we may get more chances to see this, but it was pretty incredible.
Oh my God, big time incredible.
Yeah.
Really big time. Wow.
There's a solar cycle that's supposed to happen sometime between November of 2024 and March of 2026. That's a pretty wide span.
Yeah.
They think if they had to be pinned down, July of 2025. But we'll see what they have to say as it gets closer. So it might not be, if you didn't see it this time, you may still have another opportunity.
Wes says there was a slight pink tinge visible in the skies in Florida, but nothing like that.
Yeah, cool.
Unthank you, Tony, says commentator.
Thanks, Tony.
Smoke a doobie, said Doug. There you go. There's my crowd.
Where are my weed smokers
All right,
at?
you got
Yeah.
it. You got it. We'll be watching though for what nature on display. Nature's so remarkable.
Beautiful. A lot of people never think that they're gonna travel to the place where they're going to see something like that. So to have it arrive here is kind of a phenomenon. Yeah.
It's kind of wild that you didn't see it. I kind of feel, you really did go to the effort. But,
yeah. I missed it by a day.
Is that Tahoe, Tony?
It says Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Wow.
I think those are pictures from Humboldt County.
For those not, who are just listening, it's kind of like almost a rose-colored glow or like a burgundy glow. It's pretty wild. I've only seen green. I didn't even know that it could create this coloring.
From what I'm reading is it has to do with the oxygen in the atmosphere. So the green is down low.
I see.
Because of the oxygen in the atmosphere. Okay. And the hot pink is the atmosphere up higher than that. And then there's blues and purples that go even higher. So depends on...
So it all depends on altitude.
Altitude and oxygen levels.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Look at you, Kim. This is a reminder of the good work done by Dr. Emil Schulthausen. Yeah. He did so much good work in astronomy. And who knew that Kim took it all in like that? Yeah.
So in the Bay Area, our aurora borealis was green at the bottom and hot pink up above because of the oxygen levels.
Combination.
Yeah.
Wow.
Green and pink, baby.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the next chance to see it.
Me too. Supposedly there's a shot tonight. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a school night, so I might have to go out by myself. We'll see.
Oh, why? Do you have to go out that late?
Yeah, it has to be late.
Oh,
it's like 1 a.m. essentially, like midnight 1 a.m. is when you can see it.
Yeah.
They said, and maybe Tony, you're the guy to talk to about this. They said that there would be interruption in, it's all in relation to these solar flares that are, or the solar activity.
It's a normal thing. Like every year in radio, you have to deal with if you get shows like say from a satellite feed, you have to have like backup feeds ready because it'll just kill the satellite. It'll just go dead. Mm-hmm. So. And then we always get those warnings from engineering of hey, these are the days that...
Did you notice anything over the weekend in any of the stuff that you were doing?
No, everything was fine. No. I think everything else held up. I know Elon as well posted about Starlink. Some of them were going down and they were backing them up too. So I know that there were redundancies usually set up for that stuff, but there's always in radio, it's always these contingency plans in case the solar flares will kill the satellite feed dead.
All ding redundancies. Yeah. Well done, sir. Thank you for hustling those pictures together, and I hope those who wanted to see it got a chance to. Fluorescent paint pot swirling with every color, and the crackling was audible. I'm sure that no more than 10 people experienced that at 3 a.m., says Dana Jones.
Wow. That's poetic the way that's written. Yeah.
Yeah. John says, I wonder what they're saying about this widely seen aurora on Coast to Coast AM. I'm sure some of the regular guests are saying that this is the end of the world. Yeah. The great thing about predicting the end of the world is someday you'll be right, but I was listening to that Coast to Coast AM this weekend, and I got to say, it was Saturday night, so it's not George Norrie. It was the guy who does Saturday night, and I don't know who that is, but there's something oddly compelling about that radio. It's just sort of out there in this in radio at night, and you're hearing them talking about these UFOs and the fact that there are UFOs here, and the government is actually. It's like, wow, it's just eerie. It's like ghost stories, really, is what it is. So, all right, we're getting behind. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would. Hit us with a thumbs up. I do want to tell you about one thing. This is I guess this would be a major announcement.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
If you are just joining us, June 3rd is our June Swoon special event. It's a summer kickoff meetup with special guests that'll include Spencer Christian, Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline NBC, Michael Shore will be there. We'll talk a lot of politics. Rothman will be along. We'll also just talk about stuff. Anybody you'd like to see? Might try to get Brett and Pat from the old radio station to come through. Pat has already said she'd be happy to come on the show anytime, so we've got to get Pat organized for that. And I love my Pat.
That's a good word. Come on, ding me.
Yeah, so we'll get Pat on. Sign up at our PayPal with a $50 donation to PayPal. You'll lock up a spot that way. But when you make the $50 donation, please note Meetup with your donation. It'll have a little place where you can even meet up or June Swoon, say whatever you want. And it'll be a 2-hour event. We're limiting it to 25 people, 6 to 8 on June 3rd, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's Pacific time. So make the adjustment. Those who join us from the Midwest or from the East, 6p to 8p Pacific time. Then, and this is optional, after you've locked up a spot with a $50 PayPal donation, the PayPal link is under every video, just send us an email, mtsmeetup@gmail. Say, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you, mtsmeetup@gmail.com, and that way we'll get we'll make certain you're on the list. But we're pretty good about the list now, so really looking forward to it. All right, I'm looking forward to Kim's news. Kim will do a turbo news, and then we'll get into some poll numbers for Biden and Trump. I also want to talk about some other stuff that's going on in law and disorder that does include a preacher again and a chunk of Trump. We'll try to get it all in. We've got a big chunk of Trump, as you might imagine. So smash the like button. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Are you drinking it?
I am drinking it, kid.
I knew you
love
would
my
be.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Gotta have a little Coachella in your cup. That's right.
Got to do it. Got to do it. There's a little magic in every cup. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. So pick
Time
it up.
for a sip.
More on Coachella Valley Coffee in a moment.
Well, it's happening. Yep, here he is, the star witness for the prosecution, testifying in former President Trump's hush money trial. Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen claims he was the former president's fixer who bought the silence of Stormy Daniels days before the 2016 election. He says they were actually trying not to pay her, to try to push it out, because if they could push it out past the election, they didn't care whether the information became public or not, as long as they got it past the election date.
That's an incredibly damning thing. That is clearly something that is very much in evidence. And David K. Johnson has spoken about it. And the reason it's damning is, well, A, it's consistent with who Trump is, trying to stiff people who he's, made promises to in payment. But secondly, the timing is consistent with him only caring about this in terms of the election. And that's really what this entire trial is about, the connection between the payoffs and the election. So that's why that's just a giant, giant fact and part of this trial.
He says they even used a Jewish holiday to try to get out of that payment pushed back farther and farther so that they could just keep it, from happening at all. So
to be fair, that's one of the great things about religious holidays. Am I right? People? You can use them to your, whatever you really want to do.
Yeah, why not? The situation with the Israel-Hamas war worsening, Israeli troops and tanks pushing deeper into the Gaza city of Rafah. Military officials say they are targeting Hamas in precise operations in an effort to avoid civilian casualties. Now, the Biden administration has threatened to withhold arms shipments to Israel if it conducts a large-scale invasion of Rafah without a credible plan to protect civilians there. The Los Angeles City Council's office, or City Attorney's office rather, will decide whether to prosecute two people suspected of secretly recording audio that led to the City Hall racism scandal. So investigators are recommending misdemeanor charges be filed against Santos Leon and Carla Vasquez, who are married. They both worked for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, where the controversial conversation was recorded before it was leaked to the public in October of 2022. 3 LA City Council members were heard on that recording, including Kevin De Leon, who is still in office. De Leon suing the couple for invasion of privacy for recording that conversation, that damning conversation.
Well, that conversation led to resignations. It was a massive story. I mean, it was not an incidental thing. And
No.
it was so incendiary. It was so controversial that it was skipped over at the time how the recording was, how it was done. They really got into what was on the recording, but now they're doubling back and they're looking at how the recording was actually done.
Interesting. The people that were on the recording aren't in trouble, but the people that made the recording in trouble.
Well, there were resignations, but you're right. Like Kevin De Leon didn't resign, but he was under a lot of pressure to resign.
Smoke from Canadian wildfires prompting air quality alerts in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Health officials say the air quality index in the Twin Cities is in the unhealthy range. We know about that, right? The purple dots. Yeah, forecasters expect the toxic air to continue to drift to the east and likely arrive in upstate New York later this week. Interesting. It happened a year ago, and now it's happening again. So, yeah, the problems with the Canadian wildfires there. One more time. They're doing some demolition work on that Francis Scott Key Bridge that was hit by a cargo ship. It's a controlled demolition set to take place today after weekend operations were called off because of bad weather. The crews there plan to use explosives to break apart the fallen bridge debris so the ship can be refloated to clear out that channel completely.
This is a huge story, by the way, that includes questions about liability and insurance issues and negligence. This is all related to the collision that ship made with that bridge. But, as Kim's just mentioned, the logistics of getting things back together, that's one massive story. But at the same time that story is being told and investigated, there are, as you might imagine, equally big investigations going on in the area of insurance, because when it comes to the neglect and negligence associated with captaining that ship and directing that ship into the harbor when you knew it had this is the key negligence part, when you knew that it had issues with power, it lost power. If you knew it had issues with power, might there have been safeguards that you should have taken? And when the ship lost power, shouldn't have you exactly what was the timing on that, and maybe you shouldn't have ever left the dock. So all of that's still to come out, in addition to just the rebuild that we're facing in that part of the bay.
In San Francisco, the lockdown of one of 2 of the jails will end this week after numerous incidents with inmates in recent weeks. The sheriff's office in San Francisco says 9 deputies and 7 staff members have been injured in incidents since late March in county jails. County Jails 2 and County Jail 3. Deputies and staff members have been punched in the head, the neck, slammed into walls, leaving them with numerous injuries. It's rough in the jails. Deputy union officials want to see members of the California National Guard called in until low staffing levels at these jails can be addressed. Ugh.
Jail is really not a cool place to be.
No.
I've decided, I'm not...
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, there's no Sunday brunch that they're not serving just because of the disturbance. I mean, that, they definitely have a rough ride anyway. And with staffing issues, sounds like it's only getting rougher.
Wow. I mean, I guess it's the same with all law enforcement, even police departments, right?
Yes, that's
with
right.
the lack of staffing. So that would be very difficult at a jail as well when you're trying to keep things running. Over in Oakland, there's an investigation now underway because of a fire at a facility at the Port of Oakland. The fire was triggered at a lithium battery plant at the port on 7th Street Sunday afternoon. See that black smoke? You could see that for miles. Dozens of firefighters responded to this one. They were able to put it out in about an hour. No injuries reported, but still that toxic smoke up into the air.
I saw another fire. It was in Southern California. It was an RV dealership. And it was, again, flames erupted in the overnight hours. And
right. That was last week, as a matter of fact.
Oh, was it last week? Okay.
It was $150,000 per RV. A total of damage of $2 million of brand new RVs went up in flames in that fire. And they think it was because a homeless person set the fire.
Yeah, that's the wild part. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. Thanks, Tony. Wow, good hustle. Yeah.
I mean, it went kapoosh. So
Thanks, Tony.
The story about the weekend box office we have for you as well.
Oh, this is with the Planet of the Apes, right?
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes dominated the box office on its opening weekend. The action-adventure film about how apes came to dominate the world earned $58.5 million, topping expectations. Action comedy The Fall Guy finished second, with tennis drama Challengers rounding out the weekend's top 3 films. So, this report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is, are you going to play the harp music? It is a place to get a little bit of heaven in your cup.
Oh, yes.
That's the heaven in your cup right there.
Yes, it is.
So you grab your Mark Thompson Show coffee mug. You fill it with a little bit of heaven. You find a huge selection of coffees and amazing teas at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It really is a treat just for you. From the espressos, the coffees, the teas. So yum.
Well, this is hand roasted. All the beans are hand roasted. All the beans are picked especially for the fact that they are fresh. This is the new crop. This is not discounted beans that you'll find everywhere. You'll find them even in major department stores that are not fresh. There's certainly a bunch of discounted beans everywhere, and most people just buy it and go, I got some beans, and they're whole beans, and I'm going to grind them at home. No, but these are fresh. This is the fresh crop, new crop, and that's why there's such a richness and such a special quality about Coachella Valley Coffee. And you can read about it on their website and read about what's behind them. You know, the North Star of Coachella Valley Coffee is quality, a richness, and again, this, I would just call it almost it's a small business. So they resist all the automation that's associated with so many of these other big coffee houses that ruin the product. This stuff is so great. So it's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. There is Cliff and his staff, and I think you'll be so very happy with it. But do use our discount code because it can run up. And I want you to get that 10% off. So Mark T at checkout to get a discount. Mark T, use it at checkout.
Yep. And then when it arrives on your porch, it's like you feel like you just won the lottery.
It is. And by the way, the Mark T discount is good for anything on the site. So you can get, you want to get a coffee mug there or their merch or whatever. It's good for the 10% discount for anything you want.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What up, everybody? It is our reminder that our summer kickoff meetup, we're calling it June Swoon. It's June 3rd, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. First 25 people to lock spots. You're in, and we shut it down after that. Sign up at our PayPal with a $50 donation to lock up a spot. Note with the donation, meetup or June Swoon, something like that. And you can find the PayPal link under all our videos. So looking forward to seeing a good crew. Also, after you've made the donation, if you want, this is optional, you can RSVP, say, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you on June 3rd, mtsmeetup@gmail.com. Again, 6 p.m. Pacific time to 8 p.m. Pacific time on June 3rd. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun, as I told you, a bunch of guests. Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline NBC. Courtney's going to be on camera. Rothman's going to be by. Spencer Christian. I'll ask. Haven't yet, but I think if she's available, she'll probably join. Pat Thurston. And I'm looking forward just to so many great... And Brett. This is from the old radio station. We'll get in touch with everybody and see if people don't want to pass through for a summer kickoff event.
Why are you picking on Brett?
Yeah, stop picking on Brett.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Anyway, that's what's going to be happening on June 3rd. Thank you in advance, those who like these things and are part of it. Now I have a fork in the road. I'm going to turn to you, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
I have the new polling information, which is not so good for the current president, very good for the former president in swing states. And I also have a law and disorder, and I have chunk of Trump. So I would do the chunk of Trump along with the new polling information. Maybe that's the way to go, right? Should we do chunk of Trump?
I have a stories from the sky in there as well. Did you know?
Oh, no. We have stories from the sky on law and disorder. That's the question. I mean, I'm not running out of material. I've got enough here for 2 more hours. What I'm hoping is that we can get in this chunk of Trump, which I think is sort of important, the new polling numbers, unless you feel as though we should do law and disorder first.
No, chunk of Trump should come first, I think.
All right. Let's do it without any further delay. Although that delay was productive. I just want to, sometimes we do a delay and it's just us messing around. That was productive.
I have a delay. Can I do a classic Mark Thompson time waster? Can I do one?
Yeah, of course you can. Please.
Can I get some trivia music? Because I have a trivia question for you.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
This is like, you're saying it's just
like
a
trivia question for you.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Information is out for 2024 of the 9 Bay Area counties, which has the greatest population, the most populated Bay Area county.
No, it has to be. Give me a multiple choice.
Napa, Solano, Sonoma, Marin, San Mateo, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa. Of all of those 9 Bay Area counties, which has the highest population?
I mean, it has to be Santa Clara, I would think. I mean, but somebody.
You, sir, are the winner. Yep, it's Santa Clara.
I mean, it's not. That wasn't super hard.
I thought that was difficult.
Yeah. Let's see what's close.
So it's
Alameda's really close.
Really close. It's first is Santa Clara with 1,903,000. Then you've got Alameda with 1,641,000. Followed by Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Sonoma, Solano, Marin, and then finally Napa.
That's extraordinary. I didn't realize that Alameda County is so populous, just about 300,000, not even.
Yeah.
Shy of tying Santa Clara as the most populated Bay Area county. Wow. Very good question, Kim.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
That was my time waster for the day. Carry on with your chunk of Trump.
That was a good one. We were born of a Bay Area radio station, talk radio station called KGO. That's how we do Bay Area stuff and look back to some Bay Area stories when the moment presents itself. So that's why we concentrated on the population of the Bay Area counties. All right, without any further delay, this is your chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, Kim can update you on the latest in the trial with Michael Cohen, as I told you, testifying. Michael Cohen can both show receipts and speak to the strategies associated with paying hush money to Stormy Daniels and then hiding those payments in shell companies, a shell company essentially that was set up specifically to conceal those funds.
Latest on that is, according to CNN, Michael Cohen testified he used a home equity loan to make a payment so his wife wouldn't find out.
And it was Michael Cohen who was really the dutiful foot soldier for Trump, who did put his own money on the line and then reimbursed, was Michael Cohen, by Trump in this furtive, kind of circuitous way. And that's how you end up with the shell company, with the home loan, etc. But in other Trump news, he's going to like this. Trump leads in 5 key states. Young and non-white voters express discontent with Joe Biden. A new set of Times Siena polls, including one with the Philadelphia Inquirer, reveal an erosion of support for the president among young and non-white voters upset about the economy and Gaza. We have it on the screen for you there. I don't know if you can discern, but these are the swing states. So Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, and Nevada. And if you look at Wisconsin, I mean, it's close. If the election were held today, who would you vote for if the candidates were Joe Biden and Donald Trump? In Wisconsin, 45% say Trump, 47% say Biden. In Pennsylvania, 44% say Biden, 47% say Trump. So Trump beats Biden in Pennsylvania. Trump beats Biden in Arizona, 49-42. That's beyond the margin of error. Trump beats Biden in Michigan, 49%-42%. Again, that's beyond the margin of error. Trump beats Biden in Georgia, 49%-39%. And finally, in Nevada, Trump beats Biden, 50%-38%.
Wow.
These are mostly unchanged since the last series of Times Siena polls in the battleground states in November. And, since then, you can tell me, well, it's the economy, but the market is up 25%, the stock market. I understand that these are, young people are not in the market, and that doesn't mean that inflation is affecting. Okay, but Donald Trump's taking credit. He took credit on the stump this weekend in New Jersey for the fact that the stock market was up. Now, you may say, how is that possible? How can Donald Trump, well, this is a classic Trump move. He takes credit for those things that are working out, and he farms out blame to Democrats and Joe Biden if things aren't working out. So, for example, the border, that's more complex, and I'll get to that in a second, but he'll tag the Democrats for any problems with the border. And in this case, he blames Joe Biden for inflation, but he takes credit, Trump does. And again, I heard him with his own voice saying this. You know what happened with the market and why it's up so much? Because the markets are anticipating that I, Donald Trump, am going to win the election. And that's why the market is up. Anyway, Trump's criminal trial in Manhattan seems to have had no effect on voters, at least in the polling. The Biden campaign has dumped tens of millions of dollars in ads across battleground states, and that doesn't seem to have had any effect.
I have a question about the Israel-Hamas issue, because you mentioned that younger voters that's an issue for them, and that's why they're turning away from President Biden. But it seems to me that Trump isn't going to not side with Israel on this. It seems like he goes where the money is. So I don't know what voters expect is going to change by having that be one of their key issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is a really good point that Kim is making, and it's something we've touched on before, but I think it's worth revisiting just quickly. And I would say this just in 30 seconds or less. Yep. It is the myopia of those protesting that would say, I'll vote for Trump before Biden on Middle East issues. I'm so angry at Biden about the Middle East and about support for Israel that I'm going to vote for Trump. Now, because Trump is much more militant on supporting Israel, moved the embassy to Jerusalem, the American embassy to Jerusalem. That's something that no president had wanted to do. And the idea somehow that you would run to your new daddy, he's worse than your old daddy on the Middle East. Now, to be fair, many may say, well, I'm not going to vote for either one of these guys. I'm not going to vote for either on the Middle East as a protest vote. That will hurt Biden, though, because many of those people who were likely leaning Democrat, they stay out. Now, I'll also say, though, because this is sort of a zero-sum game, when you don't vote, you say, well, as a protest, I'm not going to vote, or I'm voting for a third party, you're really, in these swing states, making a vote for Trump.
Yeah.
So that's what, and I know that was longer than 30 seconds, but the Middle East part was just 30 seconds. the circling back around to who it really helps, it helps Trump.
Yeah.
So, and then circling back around to Kim's point, and he will make the Biden administration, look like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood on the Middle East.
Right.
So if if that's your plan, it's a bad plan. And I think it's just myopic. I think it's just you're blinded by passion and emotion. You're going, I hate this administration and I'm not going to vote for them. And you go off and you can see all these YouTubers and they're F-bombing and they're angry and genocide and this. I get it. Be considered in how you vote and how you influence policy. How support for the candidates differ between registered and likely voters. I don't know if there's much of a story here. The difference is 1 to 2% all the way on down the way. Mm-hmm. But there is essentially a dissatisfaction with the state of the country and serious doubts about Biden's ability to deliver major improvements to American life. This, despite the fact that he passed this watershed bill that was bipartisan, an infrastructure package that included all of these different things, many of which are being taken credit for by Republicans who opposed the bill. And yet nearly 70% of voters say the country's political and economic systems need major changes or even to be torn down entirely. I mean, that's a strike against institutions, political and economic systems. Here it is. Most Americans think the system needs to change. This is giant because what that enables is a revolutionary kind of strategy to attack these major changes. So, again, for those listening, I'll just read it for you. Which comes closest to your view about the political and economic system in America, even if none are exactly right? The system needs to be torn down entirely, 14%. Major changes, 55%. Minor changes, 27%. No changes, 2%. And because this is the important part, they think that Donald Trump would bring more change. If this candidate won the election, do you think nothing would change? There would be minor changes to how things work? There would be major changes to how things work? Or he would tear down the system completely? Tear down the system completely for Biden, 13% if you were reelected. 11% say major changes from Biden. Minor changes from Biden, 39%. Nothing would change, 32%. Trump, tear down the system entirely. 25% of the people say that, compared to 13% with Biden, I'll remind you.
What does tear down the system mean? Do away with the Constitution and turn it into a dictatorship? What are they talking about?
Major changes, Dud, might include a lot of things. Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, he's major changes. If he won, Trump, 45%. That's compared to 11% for Biden. So, again, this isn't, well, I was going to say this really isn't wrong. I mean, it's true that Biden is an institutionalist, right? The institutions of government he believes in. But Trump is, let's tear the whole thing down. I'm your guy. My kids are going to run, the Department of Commerce, and my other kid's going to run the COVID relief. He's like, don't worry about all this government stuff. I got the whole thing handled. These 6 guys are going to, Steve Bannon's going to handle it. It's my cronies are going to take care of everything.
A bunch of crooks are going to take care of everything.
And nothing would change. 23% say that. So The last thing I'll say on the change part, but they are split on whether that change would be good or bad. Here's the last question I'll just share with you, and then you can read the poll for yourself, and we'll have a link to it in case you want to read about it more below this video. But they are split on whether that change would be good or bad. Do you think the changes that this candidate would make would be good for the country or bad for the country, or neither good nor bad? Biden, somewhat or very good. Biden got 24% on the changes. Trump gets 43% on somewhat or very good. Neither. 15% for Biden, 12% for Trump. Somewhat or very bad. 23% for Biden, 35% for Trump. So people do perceive that changes from Trump would be somewhat or very bad for the country by 12% more in poll responders than with Biden, 23% to 35% with Trump. Nothing would change, 32% for Biden and only 4% for Trump. In other words, everybody knows that, oh, things are changing if Papa Trump gets back. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is a snapshot. And again, this is 5 battleground states, so it's very relevant. And I would also say that some of the way you answer questions to these sorts of polls is not so indicative of people wanting to tear the whole place down. And I'm not reading all of these. If there's anything I need to respond to, but you can see the comments while I'm just making these points. What I was going to say is that, if you ask me, and I think you ask a lot of people who, for example, want to get rid of the Electoral College, that's a major change that you want, right? So if you ask me, do you think this country needs a major change in a system or even systems, I would say yes. So I would respond yes also. But I don't want to see the kind of changes that Donald Trump's going to make. And Donald Trump's not going to change the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Electoral College to me is sort of one of the original sins of the way the election process for president goes down in this country. It was a bone thrown to slave-holding states. That's really where it came from. But even if you take the slave-holding out, it was the whole, 3/5 compromise thing. If you take that all out, it's just absurd that you have this tyranny of the minority. How can you win by 3, 6, 7 million votes? Trump may lose the popular vote by 10 million votes and still win the presidency. So if you ask me, that's a major change that has to happen with a government institution. But again, I'm not looking for Trump to make it. I'm just saying it has to change. But Trump really doing well with those who believe that political and economic systems ought to be torn down. But what the specifics are on that varies, right? It'll vary with everybody. And that's where the nuance and specifics are lost. But you see where people don't vote on nuance. They vote on anger. And that's what Trump has tapped into. They vote on feeling left out of whatever prosperity there is. I see these polls in a stark way. But that said, you still have the Supreme Court. You still have the federal judiciary. You still have a kind of lawlessness. How might that ultimately inform decisions made in the polling place? Over 4,000 people, registered voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin were polled. And they were polled using telephone, live interviews in both English and Spanish. Nearly 95% of the respondents were contacted on a cell phone by this poll. So it's not one of the things like, well, people who have landlines,
Right.
how... And you can see the exact questions that were asked and the order in which they were asked if you want to click through on the piece that I will post under this video. So that's good news for Papa Trump, if he's your man. Bad news for Joe Biden and for a sense of normalcy that people feel, it would seem, based on polling, they didn't get from Joe Biden. They're not getting the sense of normalcy that they thought they'd get. I mean, again, the chaotic, COVID-plagued last days of the Trump administration, yeah, I suppose people have forgotten that in everything else that has happened between then and now. I did want to give you, this is pretty big news, and I did want to give this to you. It's an IRS audit of Trump that could cost former President Trump more than $100 million.
What?
The IRS is saying that they've done this long-running investigation, and they've concluded that Trump effectively claimed the same massive write-off twice on his failed Chicago tower. The 92-story skyscraper along the Chicago River is the tallest, and at least for now, the last major construction project by Trump. Through a combination of cost overruns and the bad luck of opening in the teeth of the Great Recession, it was also a vast money loser, was this big skyscraper. But when Trump sought to reap tax benefits from his losses, the IRS is saying that he went too far. So in effect, they're saying he wrote off the same losses from that building twice. The first write-off came on his tax return in 2008, and he claimed his investment in the condo hotel tower made the tax code definition of worthless because his debt on the project meant he would never see a profit. That move gave Trump reporting losses as high as $651 million for the year. And there's no indication that the IRS even challenged that. They kind of gave it to him. But the issues around Trump are that he took it again. He took more losses. And in so doing, the IRS is recalculating everything, and they're seeking a revision and a new tax bill that is something he has to pay of $100 million plus interest and penalties.
Ouch.
That is a lot of money. He will, of course, contest this. This story out of ProPublica, bravo for ProPublica. I contribute to them. And this deal with the IRS involves tax accounting, and it involves aggressive, and the IRS is saying unlawful taking of losses. Now, I'm going to back burner anything more on this until David K. Johnston joins us tomorrow. He has written literally chapter and verse on Trump, the tax code, and the IRS. And so I'll leave it to David, the Pulitzer Prize winner, tomorrow, and we'll talk to him about that. I want to leave this chunk of Trump with a little bit from his stump speech. I don't know what you have, Tony. I sent you a bunch of stuff. What do you have?
I have the Hannibal Lecter thing, and then him doing the Biden impression.
Well, before I get to Hannibal Lecter, don't you have a thing?
Oh, the Sky News, the whole thing. Yeah.
No, not the Sky News. Give me the maybe it's titled Biden impression. Yeah, but the beginning of it is not the Biden impression. Go ahead, play that. The beginning. This is Trump on the, I don't know if this audio is going to be audible. This is Trump on the stump this weekend. As I mentioned, he was saying 80 to 100,000 people. I don't know. That's an immense number of people. Maybe he did get that many, but go ahead, Tony.
Well, it's hard to hear.
I can't hear it. All right. Never mind. Let's try another one. Let's see if another one is, from an audio standpoint, a little more.
The world.
Go ahead.
They're emptying out their jails into the United States. They're emptying out their mental institutions into the United States, our beautiful country. And now the prison populations all over the world are down. They don't want to report that. The mental institution population is down because they're taking people from insane asylums and from mental institutions. You know what the difference is, right? An insane asylum is a mental institution on steroids. Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. Is this poor doctor walked by? I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country.
Okay, thank you, Tony. That's good. I don't know if you could hear that, but
It was
I
just
love that.
nonsensical.
I love that he calls it the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Like he was a real guy. He was a
Right.
character. He was also a serial killing cannibal. I don't see how he's great. So the late, great, just like, I don't know, he liked it because it rhymed or something.
Well, what does it have to do with immigration?
Well, he's saying that the immigrants were coming over. He's leaning back into his original thoughts about, they come here with, for they're emptying out their prisons and their insane asylums and they're being sent here. That's his, so he's talking about Hannibal Lecter.
They're sending us their Hannibal Lecters? Is that what they're saying?
He's riffing. He did 90 minutes. I watched it. It's crazy.
Weird.
But some of the audio, so you guys can check it out online. He started in the first 2 minutes. He said, it's good to be here in New Jersey, but boy, Biden has ruined this state with the highest sales tax and property taxes in the country. I'm thinking, wait a minute. Biden doesn't have anything to do with the sales tax in New Jersey, nor does Biden have anything to do with the property tax in New Jersey.
Aren't those local
both
issues?
those things are state issues. They're mandates from the state. And both those states, even if they were related to the feds, are predating Joe Biden, right? So it's sort of like, but he will say anything, and the crowd, roars in this super enthusiastic way. I mean, the one thing Donald Trump has convinced us is, man, you can say whatever you want, and people just cheer, and no one fact checks, and the fact checks, and the media loves the horse race so much. And to be fair to the media, it's a fire hose of lies. It's pretty hard to cover him. So the only other thing I'll give you, even though it's Chunk of Trump, is I did get this video. This is a private video sent to me, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. In Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is where we used to vacation sometimes. It's a little town. It's where Biden vacations. Remember, he's the Delaware kid. And it's not super far from Wildwood, New Jersey, but I don't know. It's a long car ride. Here is Joe Biden leaving Rehoboth. Tony? No.
Yeah, he's working on it. Okay. Nope.
Was that in the rundown?
Oh, remember I asked you? Remember I said I sent you that thing, and you said, "Oh yeah, I got it, but I had trouble getting it, but then I got it." All right, don't worry about it. Okay. You can look at it. You can look for it in the, in the last few minutes. That is Chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another Chunk of Trump.
Remind me tomorrow with David K. Johnston. I want to get into that story with the 100 million. But but Trump becomes president, that's going to be nothing. He'll be able to pick up that 100 million. No sweat.
Well, he'll be able to tweak what the IRS is accepting, right? I mean,
yeah. He can shut down an entire investigation.
His power and influence to say, you know what? I don't think we're investigating this today. Thank you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I know it's where I want to do Law and Disorder. Damn it. Well, something to be done for tomorrow. Who's on the show tomorrow, Kim?
We have David K. Johnston tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether Jefferson Graham has returned from his travels or not.
No. And we'll have to find out. Maybe Jefferson Graham. But it'll definitely have a huge Law and Disorder, which includes some celebrities. I sent it from a different email address, Tony.
Yeah, I have it.
You do have it?
I have it, yeah.
Well, let's leave today's show as Joe Biden leaves Rehoboth. Here is the president leaving Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And this is in a little video that was sent to me, and
It's the motorcade.
Yeah. All of these trucks and Suburbans, they're big black Suburbans, or whatever they are, Tahoes or whatever. Here's a white van. Somehow that's carrying the sunscreen, everybody, there at the beach.
Is that what that's happening? That they have the towels and the coolers?
It's endless, that crew. And then they're, hey, wait for me. I'm the...
That's quite an entourage.
Isn't it? It's not over. It's like one of those those train cars that they go on forever.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. That's the private video of the... I'm sure a lot of people shoot that, but it was just sent to me from my friend who's at Rehoboth for the weekend.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's that. I love...
The Mark Thompson Show.
Love that we got it on. What do I have to do? Anything here, Tony, before I leave?
You have a lot of thank yous.
All right. Wow, look at all these things. Why didn't we do these during the show? What's going on? How many times do I have to say I want to do this during the show? My God, everybody.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Look at these magnificent Robert H. for June Swoon. Right on. Robert, you have to, if you want to join us for June Swoon, you have to make a PayPal contribution, though. So I don't know what to do with that, Kim. You know what I mean? Is that a contribution for...
I think you transfer it over.
Oh, so you can do that?
I don't know. I mean, you make the choice to accept it anyway and say, okay, you're in for the June
But
Swoon.
I need email addresses to send links and stuff. So, Robert, please reach me at... the
Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com.
Okay, that's a good one. I was going to say MTS Meetup, but yeah. Okay, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. There it is. Okay. But don't mean to take anything away from the fact that we're excited to have you. Yeah. And big shout out for a 50.
Big shout out.
And you're going to love your June Swoon participation. Rest in peace, Sam. Peace to all who loved him, indeed. Audrey, thank you so much.
Big shout out.
My Sammy, I am so heartbroken that he is gone, and thank you for recognizing him that way. Rest in peace, Sam. Peace to all who loved him, from Audrey. Yeah.
2 in a row.
Big shout out to Audrey.
Big shout out.
Oh, that was Audrey again.
And again.
And again. Audrey again and again. Wow. Oh.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
So sweet, though. Rest in peace, Sam. Peace to all who loved
Yeah,
him.
because it adds up to 65 is what she was doing.
I see.
She was trying to do. I see what she was doing.
Tony can explain everything to me. Thank you, pal. Yeah. Well, Sam Rubin was a brilliant... I mean, I still can't believe... And maybe this is the way, the denial, acceptance, anger, all this, the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross 7 stages of, grief. I still can't believe that he's gone. I mean, he's 64 years old. A guy like that has a heart attack and dies? We had, again, at the beginning of the show, we had video of him joining us the day after Oscars. He worked all day, all night. Red carpet, Oscars... Then the following morning, and there he was joining us from his bed on the show. It would have been so easy for him to just say, hey, Mark, can I join you tomorrow? I'm a little burnt out. And I would have said, sure, of course, don't worry about it. But he joined us from bed. It was great. He's just one who I will miss so desperately. There he is talking about the Oscars the day after. There he was in bed. Yeah. We were talking about different people there.
As a little compliment to me here.
Oh, that's right. Did he throw you a compliment? That's right. Said whoever's hustling all these pictures.
But he was a good addition last night, and he walked the carpet. He brought his daughter. And I thought, this happens occasionally. We're always trying to impress our kids. In show business, they're never impressed. His daughter was right there. Who's ever doing your pictures, Mark?
I know. I'm quite impressed with whoever's doing the pictures. Either it's Kim or Tony, or if it's both of you. Impressive. Anyway, go ahead. Wow, Tony gets a shout out from Sam Rubin. Yep. And yeah, I remember David Alan Grier was the announcer of the Oscars. That's right, he was up there. But yeah, gosh, just a giant, and I can't believe he's gone. It's really sad.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, you guys have all been great. Thank you very much for all the support, all the love. And tomorrow we have quite the show. We'll talk about everything in the Trump trial, of course. We'll also talk about the latest poll numbers. We'll essentially x-ray some of that stuff we touched on today. And as I say, we'll really get the story on that $100 million bill that Trump is getting slapped with from the IRS. I have a Law and Disorder that includes a couple of Hollywood celebrities. Also includes a major drug bust in the airlines. So it was one of those things. Either go Law and Disorder or Stories in the Sky. I think we're going to go Law and Disorder with it. So much to do tomorrow. After Party Live is next with Kim. In fact, Kim has a lot of the stuff that we didn't get to.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
We do this.
Bye-bye.
Kim, you're great. Tony, you're great as well. We'll see you both tomorrow. And thanks, everybody. Appreciate all your love. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.